Well, hello there. It's a weekend update. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Happy Saturday to you. I almost said Thursday, and I know it's Saturday.
You can say whatever you want. It's your program too. You know.
When you when you don't go to an office or a job before you work out of your house, so
all days run together. They really do.
Yeah, your pajamas is warm.
Which really is a surprise to the Amazon guy.
Well, on a hot day, I've always figured out how to get privacy when I live alone, but before, when you're on a hot day, when you're the old man in the house, all you got to do is say, you know what?
What?
Friends, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to get naked, lay in bed, and watch movies. Anybody want to join me? That door never opens. Nobody knocks. You are alone, as planned. And nobody's going to enter that room.
Understandably so. Anyway, lots going on in our world, but everything's kind of like in neutral, Bill.
I have a theory on that. You said within 2 weeks for the MOAB, the mother of all bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how I like to kind of listen to people and look at expressions.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it because there's something that I know that about Iran from a general that said something that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to what I was thinking, the reason we haven't dropped the bomb is, you remember the movie War Games? They ran everything through a computer to see how it would, the scenario?
Yes.
I think the machine was called the Whopper. Well, they do have something like that. Anyway, there is some, wonder if the bomb will actually, even 4 bombs, will hit that bunker and destroy it, because it's the mother of all bombs. You better watch out. And then we drop it, and it makes a big puff and huff and blows a big hole in the ground, and the bunker's secure. Who looks bad?
What I've heard is that it takes 4 mother of all bombs to work, and they've got to go down the same basic entrance.
But that's in theory. It's not been tested. And then now you had the Ayatollah. He goes, there's a chance they could kill me. All right, I've got 3 candidates that they're in successive order that will take my place. So, nana boo-boo, you can get me, but you're not going to get the mission.
If I were the Ayatollah, I wouldn't be doing any long-term vacation plans, because I think his days are numbered one way or the other.
I tend to agree with you, but there's another theory, and this comes from it's a retired general,
Mike Flynn.
No, it's not Mike Flynn. Jack Keane.
Oh, Jack Keane. He's actually an advisor to the president.
Yeah. Well, here's what that's even better, because here's what he said. He said Iran is not going to capitulate, surrender, or anything, because now he said believe, but I'm going, no, they know, because I'm taking the China thing into it, that they're talking about all the planes going there. They know they can rebuild their nuclear enrichment and bomb building facility. So in other words, we can blow it to hell.
What I heard about this guy, this Ayatollah, is when he was planning all this, when he was getting all the sites developed and created, the Fordow that's the deep one that they're trying to nail right now. He always had secondary and other sites as backups, sites that he never talked about. There was always a secret site related to that site, meaning if you took out Fordow, there's something that that'll take its place right away. There are 95 million people in Iran, basically. Maybe some people say 92, some say 96, but basically 95 million people in Iran. It is a sophisticated country. For the longest time, it was the most Western country in the Middle East. People say, what do you mean? Well, no. I mean, when the Shah of Iran ran it, it was very modern, very 20th century. It was when this regime got in that they covered everyone up and treated women like second-class citizens. But the people remember those days, and they want to go back to those days. what a lot of people are saying is Trump is really stalling for. He's stalling for, and I think he's been told there's a movement inside Iran that is going to take control away from the Ayatollah because he's so weak.
You can only hope, and you got to hope the core of the people are with him on that, because I'm not a theologian. I don't study everything, but what I do know about when you talk about the Quran, you talk about the Muslim faith, we hear the evil and the bad, and it's in there, death to the infidel.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a very loving, nice part, and there are people that kind of throw away that death to everything
absolutely,
and go with the other side of the faith. So you talked about the Shah. There we're on the flip side, the loving, caring side, and I respect that. But this death to you, it's us or nothing. I don't respect that.
Let me ask you a question. If you're in a situation where the government comes up and says either you walk in the street carrying these signs chanting death to America or we kill your family, what would you do? Either you walk in the street, carry a sign with a group of people, death to America, chant it, or we'll kill your family.
Well, I'm going to answer that in a weird way because, it's not much different than what's happened here in America. Death to Trump, no King's Day, which is something now that's been proven to go back. It was months in the planning. It goes back to the DNC and whatever her name is, Walton from Walmart, where Christy Walton, the heiress there, that paid for, sponsored, and did that. And the No King's push, apparently, even though they want to make it sound like it was the biggest grassroots campaign ever out there, no, it wasn't actually. It was a bought and paid for rally. So is that not the same thing?
Well, what I would
without
say,
the death to your family, they're scaring your family.
I would say that if I was on Iran and they came to my door and said either you carry the sign and chant those words in the street with us or we'll kill you or imprison you, I would say give me the sign.
Yeah, you would.
But it doesn't change how I feel in my heart. Okay? It's a matter of existence and the existence of the people that I love. And and let me tell you another thing, Bill. You mentioned Christy Walton and people like her. Mm-hmm. At some point,
they got to be held accountable.
They have to. It's called sedition. I don't care how much money you're worth. I don't care how many stores you inherited. I don't care.
It all goes bye-bye, and you go to Jailbird City. Go there forever and rot away because you wanted us to do that. And for the people out there carrying the signs, no, they didn't threaten you with death. Well, actually, yeah, they did to you and your family. Mm-hmm. You see, they used scare tactics. They sat there and said, well, his policies, he's taking away your Social Security, your mother and father, they're going to die. They're going to have no money, no food, no house to stay in. And you, my friend, you're going to be under this thumb, this big thumb, this mushroom. You see that, right? They're scaring you in a different way, but it's the same damn thing as the Ayatollah. So you know what? You may as well grab your whatever and join his club because that's the member you're in.
And when you see all these people in Los Angeles throwing things and causing a lot of trouble, it's like Bill said, it's been in the making for a long time.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 months. This is planned, and this is their ultimate goal is to cause turmoil in this administration, the Trump administration. The other side, the left, has embraced, I'm talking about the Democrats, has embraced all things nuts. All right, all things that they never would have even considered a few years ago. They have turned around. Maybe this is desperation, but they have embraced all this crap, all this rioting in the streets, and they want to see more people out there demonstrating against the man. And now one of the things they're talking about doing, one of the things they want you to do, they want the ICE agents to take their masks off. Now, before we go into
man.
Let me tell you, the reason why they're wearing masks, folks, it's for the safety of their families. See, they go out and they do the dirty work. They go out and they grab the lowliest of the low, and they arrest them in their place and drag them off to jail. And along the way, if someone gets a picture of them and their face, and you see who they are, the agents, then there are people out there, organizations, as a matter of fact, that will find out the identity of that ICE agent, and they will dox him online. They will exploit. They will talk about where he lives, all of his personal information, where his kids go to school, all this stuff. And this is why they wear masks, for the safety of their families.
Yeah. And they will dox their own, too. Go to Minnesota because, the lady and her husband voted against key, things that the Democrats wanted. They said
the lady who was murdered last weekend.
Yes. Yeah. They voted against their party because this isn't right. We voted against it. And then, boom, that happens. And the guy that apparently did the job was a whack job.
Boatler.
He's a prepper, and he had a big manifesto of Republicans and Democrats and anything government. This guy was a nut job. You want to tie him to a party? He probably ties closer to the Democrats today.
A few days ago, they had a press conference about this guy Boatler and what he was all about. Listen.
In the early morning hours of June 14th, Belter went to the homes of 4 Minnesota state politicians with the intent to kill them. Belter first traveled to the home of Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman in Champlin, Minnesota. Belter arrived at the senator's home disguised as a police officer. He arrived in a black SUV with emergency lights turned on and with a license plate that read police. Belter wore a black tactical vest and body armor. He carried a flashlight and a Beretta 9mm handgun. He also wore a hyper-realistic silicone mask. Senator Hoffman had a security camera. I've seen the footage from that camera, and it is chilling. Belter knocked on Senator Hoffman's front door and repeatedly shouted, "This is the police, open the door." Senator Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, came to the door. When they opened the door, Belter shined the flashlight in their faces and said there had been a shooting reported in the house. Belter asked if they had any weapons. When Belter lowered his flashlight, which he had shined in their face, they realized that he was not a police officer. They shouted out, "You're not a cop. You're not a police officer." Belter then announced, "This is a robbery," and forced himself into their home. When Senator Hoffman attempted to push Belter out and stop him from entering his home, Belter shot him repeatedly. Belter then shot Miss Hoffman repeatedly. Belter fled the scene, and the Hoffman's daughter called 911. Unfortunately, the Hoffmans survived, although they remain hospitalized.
And they were shot a combination of 17 times. 17 times. They did catch Boatler. He's in jail now. His wife, who they detained for a moment last weekend, she was, when they detained her, she had a passport and a bundle of money on her, and they let her go for some reason, and she's disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Go figure. Huh? And, now they're saying Boatler is connected to Waltz. They're trying to make it sound like Waltz is implicated in some way.
Well, he was really quick to the mic on that. Waltz is not a good guy. Now, just a few weeks ago, he was talking about China being the role model for the future. And I'm like going, and he's, he got married there. He's been there so many times. The Democrats, and I don't like, picking out party people because, look, we got Lindsey Graham, who's a whack job too, but and others. But the simple fact is, Kamala, you look at, Waltz, you look at, what's his name?
Jerry Nadler, you got Swalwell, you got, the list goes on and on and on with the wackos on the left. How anybody in their right mind could support those losers, and then they turn around and they complain about Trump, who is reasonable. You may not like his style, but the guy's a brilliant guy.
Yeah, I was thinking of AOC and her cohort.
Yeah, I know you're talking about Ilhan Omar from
No, the guy,
Minneapolis.
the old guy that ran for president and got beat up by Biden.
Oh,
All of a sudden I can't.
you're talking Bernie Sanders.
Bernie, I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. All of a sudden, I had one of
That's
that.
all right.
Mind
You had a
fog.
senior moment, you know.
Yeah, no, it's mind fog. From the heat. The heat. That's
It's okay.
it. The heat
Hey,
got me.
we talked about before we played that clip. We talked about ICE, and we talked about the left not wanting the ICE agents to wear masks. Jerry Nadler from New York, he is that little, they call him the penguin. He kind of looks like it. He had, at one time he was enormous and he had stomach bypass surgery. He still is kind of big, but he's a little thinner than he was. And by the way, he's about 5'2". Jerry Nadler had this to say.
But these people are wearing masks and are totally unidentified. And the question is why? It's completely improper. And again, one has to assume they're hiding something or they're hiding misbehavior, because otherwise, why would they be wearing masks and denying their identities?
They must have done some kind of research and figured, well, do the mask thing, promote the mask thing, make that sound like it's an issue. Never mind the fact that the agents have to wear them to protect their families. Don't talk about that,
What they should think about is, okay, they make a big deal of the mask thing. There's a rhyme and a reason for it, and if you think about it, you'll figure it out. Everybody's smart. But figure this out. All right, you take that shield of or that cloak of secrecy away of who you are, and you're out there doing something just, all of a sudden that ties anybody's hands that wants to sit there and do justice. Well, can you do it in the light of day? Well, yeah. Okay, let's wave a flag. Let's get a big searchlight. Hey, we're the law. We're coming for you. We're about 2 miles out. We'll be there in a minute.
Really, someone made a suggestion. It's true. All of these lefties who are saying, take off your masks, expose yourself, and if these people start getting doxxed, maybe they should do the same thing to these lefties. Maybe
you know what? Dox all the politicians.
Yes.
You want to dox? You want to dox?
It's fair game. If you're going to dox these poor agents, they can dox you.
You're public figures, so everybody has the right to know, right? Yeah, you live at this address, and this is what you voted for. I agree with that. Dox them all.
Well, I think, in all honesty, I think doxing should be illegal. It should be illegal.
You can dox everybody up to the president. Oh, wait a minute. We know Trump Tower and where that is. We know where the White House is. We know where Mar-a-Lago is. We know where he's got golf courses and places to stay. He's doxed. He's out there. So, you know what? You guys hiding behind the cloak of justice? Nah. Forget about it.
So anyway,
think about that.
Mike Flynn had some suggestions for President Trump about the Iran situation, which we're all still, and some people think, by the way, Bill, it's going to happen this weekend still, even though he said within the next 2 weeks.
Within.
Yeah. Some people think it may happen this weekend.
Could happen right now as we're talking.
Yep, it could.
You don't know.
Here's what Mike Flynn suggested.
J.D. Vance is somebody who is advising the president, is in his ear and is in these meetings. Seems to be a very steady hand. Would you advise the president? What would you advise the president right now, given the circumstance with Iran? Would you advise him to strike Iran right now?
No, I wouldn't. I would wait to the one thing that I know about warfare is that I can tell that the Israelis are on a very methodical and determined campaign, military campaign with a series of objectives, a series of phases. And they're likely well into their second phase of this operation, of this campaign, from a military campaigning perspective. So I would not. I would, it's kind of like in warfare, Benny, the best plan has the most options right up to the last possible minute. So the president has to have all the options available. And if he decides to use them, he needs to know, when I make that decision, how long is that going to take to implement? When I make that decision, how long is that going to take? So he's got to have the timing and the sequencing and all these kinds of things in mind, and people around him. So I don't think right now is the time. I don't think right now is the time. I do, as I look at what the Israelis are doing, because Israel doesn't want army divisions and boots on the ground. You know, what we all want. I want the Iranian people to rise up. And guess what? For those, because they'll listen to this, Benny. The Iranian people know that 50 years of existence under a dictatorship. The other aspect of what Trump's got to think about, and this is where J.D. Vance comes in very handily, it's to continue to pull on the president to make sure that he doesn't lose focus of why he was elected president of the United States. Back to something that you said, a while back there about where there's a nuclear weapon right here in this country right now, right? I mean, and there is. So I think that those steady hands around him, and I would say that Trump's probably one of the most steady because of the kinds of things that he's done. There are times when I felt like, God, I wish Trump would just, do this right now, something that he could have done inside the country, right? And that has to do with accountability. But another day, because right now the steadiness that he requires are those options that I just, we've talked about, and he needs to know the timing and the sequencing. So right now I would say hold. I would say, no, just hold on that option. Let's see how the Israeli campaign continues to unfold, and let's see what the world is going to do, because NATO is going to try to pull Trump into the war in Ukraine, and what are we going to have? I mean, that's nuts. That's nuts. So that's nuts up there what we're doing, and over $500 billion we spent. The Chinese, with what the Israelis are doing, remember how much oil the Chinese pull through the Straits of Hormuz, and I said it this morning. That's a very devastating thing, as well as the tariffs. So there's some boxing going on here. If you think about a boxer who's in one stance and then changes the stance, right? Trump is able to be that adaptive in his ability because, frankly, the United States of America still has, and that's what I want. That's kind of how I want Trump to think. But I do want Trump to come out to the American people and tell us with some great clarity where parts of his head are, where America needs to be thinking. What are the objectives that he is still seeking, given the mandate that he was given by the American people? You got to keep the troops informed, Benny.
Now, mind you, that was a couple of days ago, so I would submit that President Trump has been waiting, got all that information that he was talking about. He said, if I do this, how long will it take before it's completed and what happens then? I think he knows all this stuff now.
Yeah, and I got a question based on what he said. If you go back, if you don't remember the first part of the show when we talked about Iran and the complexity of everything with that bomb and how they feel and what they're doing, that they feel that they don't need, if we blow that facility up, they're still going on. Mm-hmm. Is there a road to peace?
Well, I don't think there's a road to peace unless the people of Iran actually get up and help.
Well, now here's a question for you, because he just said, well, I hope, Trump lets everybody know. And I was thinking about it, in the past, we have done this before where we've flown planes over. We didn't drop bombs. Pamphlets. Yeah. In other words, explain our case, explain everything so they know. A lot of people got the hell out of Iran right now, and just let them know that we're there for them. If it comes to a finality, don't be there for it unless that's your cause, and then we pray for you, but we will help rebuild you, but we have to do certain things, and that's that. Let them know, and let our people, that lets our people know.
You heard Mike Flynn say he wouldn't do it now, but it doesn't mean he wouldn't do it.
No.
That was when he recorded it. It doesn't mean he wouldn't do it now, meaning today. The other thing is, like General Keane, who we talked about earlier, he said he thinks it's a good idea to go in.
here's what I gather from what this fellow just said, and other people that and other people that side with Trump, but they go, well, I just wish he would do things different. Let me explain a little bit something about the psyche of this guy, because he's bombastic. Yeah, he's a P.T. Barnum. Well, he has been in business and whatnot, but very successful at what he's done in the past. And people are saying, yes, he's a steady leader. As a matter of fact, Pakistan just sat there and said, we want this guy to get the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize.
President Trump they're talking about.
Yeah. But here's what Trump is doing, because when you step back and look at it, he does have a steady hand. He knows what he's going to do, but he can't tell you his plan. So what he does is, I think, brilliant. He keeps the story dancing so you can't follow, everything. And that's a purpose.
It's just like the other thing that they say we have to worry about is a possible cyber attack from Iran.
Do you believe right now Iran is in the planning or execution stages of cyber attacks against the United States?
Absolutely. I wish this wasn't the truth, but I believe within the next 30 days, you're going to see a massive cyber attack. All of the indications are there. Everyone's ganging up on Iran. You're seeing a lot of tension building, and they cannot compete on the military front. On the physical front, with airplanes, weapons, there's no way they can compete with the United States and Israel. But on cyber, they are very, very advanced. Remember, Stuxnet attacked their nuclear reactors. Yes, they were a victim, but when you're a victim of a cyber attack, you also get access to all the code. So they actually have all the code that was used to break into their nuclear reactor. They now took that, and they can use that against us to break into our nuclear reactors.
And understand something. They don't have to be in Iran to do that. They can be all over the world in different sites. It doesn't mean that it will bomb the living daylights out of Iran and stop that. No. They could be launching it from Switzerland for all we know.
John Q. Public's going, well, what does that mean to me? So, I have a computer outage. Let me explain something to you. You've heard of hacks and stuff like that. Oh, yeah, but I have security. But you have all your information. Maybe you got crypto. Maybe you got this, you got that. You've got all your information there, and they do a hack, just like they're doing for the government. They can go in before you realize it, and at some point steal money from you, John Q. Public, from anybody anywhere in the world, and that money can funnel back to some nefarious sources that use it in their war against us. You've got to be secure, in your own little realm there of your sanctity, because hell, I got a notice this morning saying, oh, your crypto account has possibly been hacked. We're locking it down. I'm going like, no. And I look and I'm going, oh, they're saying verify this email.
They're hacking it.
They're trying to hack. And I'm going like, I got a better idea. Why don't I just delete that email and block that sender? But they'll use a different thing. They're going to keep trying.
Understand something. If they were to cyber attack our country, it would affect our power stations, our telephone systems, our communication systems, our hospitals, our water filtration systems. That's what they're looking to do, not just turn off your computer, not to just shut down the internet. They want to cripple us as a country and put us back into
Stone Age,
at least the early 20th century. They are not giving up.
What can you do? Under $500, you can probably go out and buy, even if you're in an apartment, a window antenna. You can get an antenna. You can get shortwave. You can go online and take the technician class. And I think it's 20 or something questions you'll answer, and you got a technician's license. You can go up, advance at one thing, and the questions are there and the answers are there. So you can get it, and you can communicate virtually around the world. You have communication, which if you lose the internet, you don't have communication. I got radio. Radio's hooked to the internet now, friends. there are guys like me that do radio still, but I do it right here from home in my business suit, my pajamas.
There's a lot of people, Bill, are intimidated by the words shortwave and licenses and stuff. I know what you're saying. It's not as hard as people would think it is. But my suggestion is go grab yourself a CB radio or go out and buy a shortwave. And even if you never use it, if there's an emergency situation, not only that, but if there's an emergency situation, nobody's going to enforce any kind of radio laws.
You can say, "Hey, this is Shirley Q. I'm in.
Yes.
I need help," and somebody will hear it. And
yes,
the guys with the big rigs. But I will say this, it's kind of like, I love motorcycles. I have all my life, and I thought it was interesting. Women, and there's still I believe they're still the number one buyers of motorcycles. They took into that hobby that the fun of being out in the wind, and more women than men are getting into motorcycling, have been for years. That is also going on with, we're talking, you call it ham radio, whatever you want to call it, shortwave, but they're getting into that. Their licenses are going up big, tenfold, and the reason is, women are, they're nurturers, they're protectors in a certain way, and they're the thinkers, and they're going, I need some security, and that's one thing that they look at. So a lot of women are doing. I'm just saying you can do it on the down low, and you can just get a monitor.
The other thing that we have to remind people is, and Trump is very aware of this, is while we're all watching what's happening in the Middle East, there's another big war happening still in Ukraine, and Trump was asked about Mike Pompeo and Lindsey Graham going to the Ukraine. And, and essentially encouraging the Ukraine not to negotiate and to keep up the fight. Listen to what he said.
You've been making progress towards a peace deal, but I don't know if you know this, but Lindsey Graham and Mike Pompeo were there on the ground in Ukraine, seemingly doing the opposite, trying to provoke the Ukrainians to keep fighting. What do you think of that?
Well, we're going to see, and people have to be very careful with what they say. They got to be very careful with their mouth, because their mouth can get them into a lot of trouble.
And I saw him
stand down, boys.
I saw him say that, and as he was answering it, you could see him get angrier when he thought about it. Like Pompeo and Graham adding their 2 cents to the problem. They didn't go over there under the auspices of the Trump administration, and Trump didn't like it.
The Ukraine's gotten a lot of help. Without it, they wouldn't be doing well. And if the help stopped, they couldn't keep up what they're doing. Now, Russia is hurting. There's no denying that. But they are a big foe, and they still have a lot of tools in their shed. I would say this for Vladimir and Zelensky, and Putin, is to sit there and say, you know what, let's you and I sit down and have a talk, and while before we have this talk, we cease all hostilities. We have a talk and come to an agreement. Maybe there's a way that Putin can say, Zelensky, you're going to remain this way, because that's all he wants. He wants a position in the future, and some say, and put their woes aside and get that fence mended. Then they are sitting pretty outside of all of this,
But then you have guys like Graham and Pompeo.
And that's what they want to keep that pot stirred.
Yes, running over
Forget
there
about
and raising hell. By the way,
Trump said, let them fight their war, mend your fences.
Putin was asked about the Iran situation, and he essentially washed his hands of the problem. That's not my problem. He's got enough to take care of right now. And as a matter of fact, earlier, a few days ago, he'd suggested maybe we can help negotiate a settlement. And Trump said, just take care of your war and end that. Finish that up so that don't worry about two wars. And I guess Putin's taking his advice.
And that's what I'm saying. You guys figure out how to sit down and settle this. We got to get this thing settled. We know China's trying to get in, but if we could get this settled, maybe do the leaflet thing, I don't know, and figure out if we're going to bomb or not, but get it together and do it. And that leaves China, who's aggressing now. They've flown over the barrier for Taiwan, and they've got ships there now. They're getting ready to make an aggressive move there. They've said so. They're marching towards the west. And because all these little breakouts all over the world leaves them unattended.
There's so many distractions right now. So many distractions. It's amazing how just last week we were talking about the Ukraine situation, and we were talking about a lot of other things. And now we're worried about what's happening in the Middle East and this Moab situation. It's amazing. And by the way, by Monday, when we start our show Monday, I'm sure it'll be a totally different news cycle. You got to pay attention to what's going on. You really do.
It's going to change right after this show is done recording. And, what I wish for Democrats to do is quit all this stupid stirring the pot and just be Americans for a little while. And, I say that because it's kind of a funny thing, but it was Hank Johnson, a representative, where he sat there, and it's Black History Month. And he sat there and he bought a Strat. Okay, I got a Strat upstairs. I got guitars.
Yeah,
I am not a great player.
You know what he's famous for?
What?
He was in a hearing talking to an admiral, and he was talking about an island that they were talking about, I guess, building a base on. And he expressed concern that if you put too many people on that island, it might turn upside down. It might turn upside. And the general said, I don't think that's a consideration we have to be concerned with, sir. I mean, it was like, I'm sure he felt like saying, sir, are you serious?
All I'm going to say, I applaud him for wanting to pick up the guitar and learn it. The bravery of sitting there not being able to play it too well and do a song. He picked Hey Joe, but he turned it into Hey Trump. And I'm going, you Democrats need to back off the hate. You just got to back up because you think it's working, and all it's done is ticked off the whole of the right and a lot of your left base. I would get off that. Now, if you want to just sit there and be a person and say, yeah, I'm picking up the guitar, it's this, I'm cool with that. And I'm cool with the fact that you're brave enough to get out there and try something.
Hey,
publicly.
Before we wrap the show up, I wanted to talk about this little story here. There's been some consideration to going to San Francisco and actually rejuvenating Alcatraz, bringing it back, doing some renovations and using it as a detention facility. But then somebody else came along with another idea.
Attorney General James Upmeyer here at the Miami-Dade Collier training facility. This is an old, virtually abandoned airport facility right in the middle of the Everglades. Florida's been leading on immigration enforcement, supporting the Trump administration and ICE's efforts to detain and deport criminal aliens. The governor tasked state leaders to identify places for new temporary detention facilities. I think this is the best one. As I call it, Alligator Alcatraz. This 30-square-mile area is completely surrounded by the Everglades. Presents a efficient, low-cost opportunity to build a temporary detention facility because you don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. People get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Within just 30 to 60 days after we begin construction, it could be up and running and could house as many as 1,000 criminal aliens. This presents a great opportunity for the state of Florida to work with Miami-Dade and Collier counties. Alligator Alcatraz, we're ready to go.
I think it's interesting. They want to take an old airstrip, which is in the middle of the Everglades, and they want to make it into a prison, a detention center for illegals. And if they get away, there's nowhere to run. I mean, it's surrounded by alligators.
They did a vote with the alligators and the pythons. They said, "Yeah,
we're up for it.
Bring it.
Yeah,
it's a floating buffet. Just wait for somebody to jump off." Actually, I think it's a good idea, but I still think Alcatraz. We have an east and west version. Makes it easier to get somebody to the nearest facility. And
one of the things I wish that these young kids would do when they put these pieces together, somebody should teach them the importance of running the music levels on their stuff.
Oh, way too loud. Yeah.
Oh, it's like, they just turn the music on and they sit back. They don't realize, like, we have a radio background. You understand you have to adjust the level so the narration can be heard properly without a distraction. But these young kids put music behind it, and you can hardly see. It's like the guy's screaming over it.
Yeah. Yeah, if you gotta tweak your ear up. Sorry about that. My headphone tweaked up to the microphone. But if you gotta tweak your ear up to the speaker like that to hear that, what's he saying?
Yeah,
it's too loud. But that's just
exactly. Hey, I'm all done, Bill. This is a weekend update program, and a lot of things to look forward to this weekend. Hopefully, I'd love to see the Iranian people rise up over the weekend and take their country back, because it's never been weaker, I think.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. A couple of funny things in the news to mention. I think of Buford T. Justice and, Smokey and the Bandit, but you don't mess with Texas. Apparently, DPS, they were involved in a high-speed chase, resulted in the arrest of 11 illegal aliens. So that was kind of a weird story that was out there. There was also a funny story.
There was one where they stopped a truck which was filled with bales of hay, and they took the bales off, and underneath, on the bottom of the truck bed, were these like compartments, and they were filled with illegals.
Yeah, and you know what? That's an American that's probably driving them. Maybe not. I don't know. But, you always hear about these cargo containers or boats that are coming over where they take all these people illegally. They're coming in, that are crammed in there, and they die in there because they're not thinking about that.
Ventilation.
You ought to think about that, too. Yeah, what you're doing to these people, and and they're probably paid to be there. You're selling them something that you can't give them, that they can get on their own, but you can't give them.
The other thing, Bill, mostly they're old trucks, and many times
the fumes.
Yeah, they can die from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Oh, yeah, smell of the gas. You hit a bump, your head's hitting the bottom of the floor and the top of the. It's and I mean, I'm sure it's a foul stench in there too. The Dodgers, if you're a Dodger baseball fan, think again.
Yeah, I heard this.
They're funding illegal aliens with family assistance. They're taking millions of dollars to do that. And I said, I grew up in California. I love the Dodgers. I used to run Dodger baseball out there. Forget them now. I mean,
well, the thing is, they kicked the ICE agents out of the. ICE agents said, "Can we park our vehicles in the stadium parking lot?" They said no. And they came out with a statement saying we're for everybody. And the ICE agent says, we weren't doing an action in the stadium. We just wanted to park our cars there because we were working at other parts of town. But the Dodgers are woke, obviously, and they're trying, like a lot of sporting groups are. I think that'll be the downfall of a lot of Major League sports. You start getting woke and to the detriment of the American people, and I think you're going to see a lot of fans saying, I love your team. I don't love how you're running it right now, and until you guys straighten up, we're done.
Yeah. There's two other kind of funny stories that I'll throw out. Something to think about for the weekend if you're ready for this. Apparently, the left is in an uproar. The J.D. Vance apparently, I guess he misspoke and called Alex Padilla Jose Padilla.
Oh, that's terrible. How do you?
I know.
Yeah.
I thought he was Pedro. I didn't know,
Yeah, so, they got his first name wrong. I mean, he's the vice president. He deals with loads of people.
Let me ask you a question. Did you know of Alex, Jose, or Pedro before, this fella, big fella,
hey, he got the Padilla right, so be happy with that, will you, California?
Look, I spilled a beer down Andre the Giant's pants, and, you're going, Andre the Giant. No, this is true, but I'm not going to go into the details. But he patted me on the head, and I'm 6'2", and he goes, that's okay, little fellow. And so I bought him a beer, and I went home to change my pants.
I'll bet you did.
I really did.
Got to get you a six-pack.
Yeah, whatever you want there, Andre, I'm buying for you. Anyway, and then the weather. The weather is kind of odd, don't you think?
The weather is crazy. We're talking about 2 double heat waves back-to-back in the Northeast.
Oh, yeah, we got the heat wave, double heat wave in the Northeast. We've got a rare June snowstorm for Idaho, Montana. California's not out of the mix. No, they got an air quality hazard warning. You got to stay inside. It's so bad. And then I hear it's raining ICBMs in the Middle East. So that's our weather forecast.
Yes.
that's the show.
ICBMs in the Middle East. Anyway, folks, have a good weekend. Try not to worry too much, but pay attention. Keep your eye on the news. You don't want to be surprised by something, all right? You really should pay attention. And by the way, if it's something that's really important, that we think that our comments would be of any value, we'll come back on. But for the most part, count on us being back here on Monday.
Yeah. We have fun doing this thing, but what really is the key for us, we feel like we're doing something important and giving you vital information. A lot of times it's our opinion. We say that, but it's based on facts. We don't hide behind it or sugarcoat anything. We just tell you what it is, and we have fun in the process too. With that, I say, before I say our adieus, do like and share the show. I mean, I would appreciate it right now. If you've gotten this far,
yes,
then in your mind it was a good show. So you say, hey, you want to hear these guys because I see the numbers out there, but I also see, Facebook. You can go and like and share it, or you can just give the link, and that's all you got to do.
Yes,
and
I agree.
That helps us, and we appreciate that. And shoot us an email too. It's mail@jimandbill.com. We get that. I'm slow to go and look at that, but I'll get more diligent on it, or I'll have it forwarded to each of our personal respective email addresses. And without
Bill,
ado,
one more thing. And if the figures that we've gotten from some of our sources are true, and we have the millions of people listening to the program that they say we do, we'd like you to go over to your wallet right now and to send us $1. No, I'm just kidding. No, don't go to your wallet. Don't send anything. No.
Just send us a $3 bill.
Yeah. Goodbye, Bill.
Hasta la vista, baby. We are out of here.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. This is CRN America.